Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Infinite Improvement Podcast with me, Coach Christo, and Coach Andres. Today, we're going to talk about team environments and what we think good team environments should be like, what we think good teammates should be like, and why. Because obviously, soccer is a team sport, and I have some very strong opinions on this. So I kind of want to start by telling a little bit of a story about one of the moments that I'm actually most, it's not like a particular moment, but maybe like one of the things that I'm most embarrassed about from playing soccer. So there was a time when I was on a team and I wasn't playing very much at all. Obviously it was a very difficult situation for me. I was pretty young. I was probably 14, 15, playing on a very good team. But I wasn't playing much. I started over the course of the season getting into this very negative mentality where all I was thinking was, if I was on the bench, I hope my team loses. I hope, my team or my teammates or the player in my position does poorly so that I can finally get a chance. And I just think that whenever you're in this kind of mentality, now it doesn't matter if you're on the bench. It doesn't matter, if you're in the stands, if you don't even make the squad for the bench or something. The team always comes first, and whatever situation you're in, you need to put the team first. So my phrase, is gonna sound kind of weird after what I just said. So my phrase for what I think what and why I think a good team environment should be like is for you, through the team, for the team. Now a lot of players get the wrong idea when I say that the team should always come first. But in my opinion, you will never be successful as a player if you don't put the team first. You have to do everything that you can for the team. And the easiest way to succeed as a player is to be on a successful team. So, you have to let go of your own ego a little bit and do whatever you have to do for the team, put them first, and everything else kind of follows from there. You can be your own incredible individual player, but only if you realize that helping the team is what's going to end up helping yourself.
Yeah. Can you repeat the phrase again?
So for you, through the team, for the team. So even though I'm talking about working for the team, it starts with for you, because a lot of players lose. They either don't care about the team at all, or they lose sight of like why they're doing this. Like, obviously, we're not going to play on the same team throughout our whole careers. And we want to be successful as individuals, but you're only going to do that through the team. And if you do it for the team. So if you play for yourself, it's just not going to happen. If you don't like care about going through that, doing it through a team, succeeding by being part of a team and doing it for a team, then you're kind of lost already, in my opinion.
And so would your story be an example of
not doing it? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because like I was so stuck in this negative kind of mindset that it affected me as well. So, and I just think like negativity spreads. Like it's I think we talked about this before. Maybe it's like a virus. Like it goes everywhere, right? Like if you're negative in one area of your life, it's easy for that to creep into other areas. If you're negative, it's easy for your teammates to see that and for it to affect them. If you truly want to help yourself and you're playing a team sport, you have to find a way to put the team first, whatever situation you're in. And it's not always easy, but it is very, very important.
Yeah. And it's at the younger ages, it must be so much more difficult because everyone is looking for their personal outcome of making it somewhere. So it's really hard to battle. I gotta make it. I gotta stand out, but I gotta put the team first. But if I put the team first, then maybe I won't be seen by the scouts, because I'm doing, I don't know, I'm having the ball less, or I'm on the
Playing out of
bench.
position.
Yeah. And so it's a dilemma. It's an inner dilemma. That it's a sport that depends on the collective. But the collective is also a group of individuals, and so each individual, even at the highest level, I'm sure, like, unless you play for, I don't know, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Barca, everybody else is trying to stand out to maybe get to one of those teams.
Yeah.
So it's a really tough dilemma, knowing that you're in it. The only way that I like that you start for you, because the only way that you're going to benefit is when you are able to flip it and turn it into the collective.
Yeah, that's like exactly what I'm going for, because like a lot of the time I talk, like I make a couple videos and I'm like, the team comes first. You have to put the team first. If you're on the bench and you're hoping that your teammates fail, you're doing something wrong. You need to switch that mentality, because you'll never succeed as an athlete if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
But players are like, okay, so I don't matter. It's all for the team. And I'm like, no, of course not. Like, you know, especially as a young athlete, if you're 15, 16, you're not going to be playing with these players in
Yeah.
2, 3 years, whether you're playing in college or semi-professional or professional or whatever. Like, you're going to be playing with a completely different team. But you still need to learn these lessons and carry them forward into those teams. The only way you'll succeed, like, what do coaches look for? Coaches, and like, obviously, like, not every coach is like this, and it gets more like this the higher up in level you go, but coaches look for players who can help their team win games. So
Yeah.
that's what you need to figure out. You need to find a way to help a team succeed, not
Yeah.
succeed yourself. Nobody cares how incredible a player you are if your team isn't doing well. Like, maybe that's a stepping stone to get onto a better team, but once you're on that better team, like, what matters at the end of the day is how the team does.
Yeah.
You can play incredibly individually. If your team loses, then there are still problems that need to be figured out, right?
Yeah, and I think you only increase your chances of being seen by whoever you want to be seen, the better the team does. So, like, even if you're the star of the team, but your team is out at group stages,
Yeah.
I don't know. But if you find a way to help your team get to the final, you're more likely to have the scouts there. Whatever final, like, it could be a showcase, it could be some sort of tournament. If your team together can get to the final, your chances of being seen, because if you think about scout, they're most likely gonna go watch the semifinals, the finals, and that's the best teams that are gonna get there. It's not the group of individuals that are gonna get there. So it's tough. It is tough because a lot of the time you may feel like nobody sees you if you're
Yeah.
doing the dirty work, or like the roles that perhaps don't come out on the newspaper, the roles that don't come out on a website. But you have to also trust that there are coaches out there that are looking
Smart.
for,
Yeah.
that aren't just looking for the goal scorers or the best defenders who stop from in the goal line, or the best tackles. There's so much more to the game, which I think at a young age is I wish somebody told me how many more variables the game had, other than my skill set and scoring goals and assisting or preventing goals.
Yeah.
So, and that influences the everyday, because then you start to act in certain ways in training. So if you see that somebody's getting more attention than you, if you see that somebody's getting there's rumors of they're getting opportunities with an academy or first team, then you start to, instead of being happy for them, you become resentful. And I think
Yeah.
that's when you have multiple of those in the same group, it can really fracture the environment.
Yeah, definitely. But like, I honestly think, like, if your teammates are getting opportunities, it's probably because the team is being successful and stuff. And like, maybe your opportunity isn't there right then, but
Yeah.
that I like, that is good for you if your teammates are getting opportunities, because
Yeah,
like,
they're opening doors for you
players,
too.
yeah, exactly. Like, if players are going from one team and they're going to a higher level and they're succeeding, coaches are going to be like, oh, where'd he come from? He came from this club. maybe we should have another look at some other players from that team. Like not everyone is going to, succeed right away, and not everyone is going to succeed at all. But in this sport, you never succeed alone. You never succeed alone. It's just impossible. And like you said, like there are intelligent coaches out there. There are intelligent scouts out there. They're not, recruiting players for colleges or whatever, and only looking at goals and assists, and goalkeepers who kept a lot of clean sheets or something. Those things matter. But like, in my opinion, it's like, it's impossible to judge a player from statistics alone. Or like even impossible to judge a player from just like a highlight video, like a resume and a highlight video. They do a lot, but at the end of the day, coaches want to see you play, because that's what actually will tell them what kind of player you are, and how you're helping your team succeed, which is what they want at their team, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's easier said. Also, it's easier said from us having gone through it and having had those experiences. But again, every time I coach, I was like, what can I do to help them, or what can I do to have helped myself at their age? And I think just opening their minds in how to approach the everyday training, how to approach the game, how to detach from yourself, but not forget about yourself. All of these small little things are really important, that I wish I had, because I was always either playing pickup or I was one of the better players in club. And then when the moment comes where everybody is just as good or even better, you have to find new ways to enjoy the process, because for some reason, once you're not the best anymore, you start to, it's almost, it reveals to you, okay, do you actually like the sport? Do you just like the fact that you're good at this craft? I think for me, I learned to love the game even more. And I hope and I try my best to create those environments for the players where, yes, you may be a good player, but there's always somebody younger, better, and working harder, and you might come across them at some point, maybe not in this team, but probably in the next one. So it's, how can you build a good relationship with the best player and the worst player on the team, because it's the only way to take the whole team to the next level.
Yeah, I think like a really like a kind of clear example of this was like in 2016 when Ronaldo got injured and had to come off in the Euro and stuff. But then he's on the sideline, yelling at his basically taking over from Santos and just coaching the team. And there was like that one clip in the right before the penalty shootout. And I think it was João Moutinho, if I'm not wrong, could have been someone else who was like a little nervous to take a penalty. And Ronaldo was like, you hit them well, you're going to take one. And then he scored. And it's just like, obviously he wasn't able to be a part of that game as he wanted to be, but he like, if you're on the team, you're always involved. And that's like how I changed kind of, from being a player who was like very like, I want to succeed. And if I'm not on the field, how can I succeed? Into, in my later years, whenever I did end up on the bench, I was, I very much invested in how the team was doing, and I really wanted them to succeed. And I was there, even sometimes when I played at the men's level, we only had 18 players on match day, and there were times when I wasn't in that 18. So I would have to sit in the stands, not even on the bench, but I still wanted my team to win. And eventually that, it helped the team, because your team needs that support. The starters aren't like, they're people just like you are. They want support from their teammates. It's a lot easier, in my opinion, to succeed when your teammates are supporting you. And then also it helped me, because that positivity, and wanting my teams to succeed not only led to me, cheering them on and supporting them, but also working hard to improve myself, because I thought, obviously the best way to help my team improve is to become a better player than the starter ahead of me, and play. So yeah, but it's something I see a lot of players kind of go kind of wrong with, either losing themselves because they think they don't matter and it's all about the team, or thinking that, team success, who cares how my team does? I'm gonna do well individually. I'm good enough to go to the next level.
Yeah. And I think one thing that would help is if the people around you, not your teammates, but your parents, your girlfriend, your best friend, if they're also on the same page. Because I remember my dad being really angry at the coach when he wouldn't play me. So I go home and dad is like, "Oh, coach doesn't like you. What's wrong with this coach?" Your girlfriend will come and be like, "Wait, why aren't you on the field? Like, what's wrong? Like who's better than you?" And so like finding a way to create almost like this team for yourself outside of the field that is not helping you become more resentful, but they're actually helping you be more open-minded to the situation. And not to take away that, like, yeah, we obviously came to watch you play, we would have rather seen you play, but I think if they make the wrong comments, it's only going to feed into the player who's already struggling with the fact that they want to be on the field. And many times it also, the parent also is defined by whether their kid is on the field or not. So then they start to create resentful comments, not just to the player, but on the sideline. And then once they meet, it's the player that is resentful and the parent that are resentful, and then it explodes. And so it actually decreases the chances of that individual. So I think it's very important that you create a group of people that are outside of the team, your closest ones, who are being honest with you and supporting you, but at the same time helping you eliminate any type of negative feeling in the difficult moments. Because it's easy to try to take care of someone by just agreeing with, yeah, the coach sucks, yeah, the other player is not as good as you, and that's not helping anybody.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting point. Like, if you go home afterwards and you have someone you can like call on the phone, and like obviously it's good to like talk to people, but if you're like like just complaining about the situation, and if that person just agrees with you, rather than maybe they say like, listen, I don't know if you've seen, there's a clip of Robin Van Persie talking about his son. When his son, and he was like, the kid was like complaining after like a bad game, and he's like, "You're acting like what I hear right now sounds like a loser," and he said that to his own son, right? And obviously he's like, saying as well, like, even if you don't play football, it doesn't matter. I'll always love you, but you can't put the blame on other people. You can't blame the coach. You can't blame the other players. Like, at some point, you need to take responsibility for yourself, right? And like, I don't know about your experiences, but I've very rarely not played when I honestly thought I deserved to, like beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like, obviously, like maybe I could have played and done just as well as the starter or something, but like, it's not like so clear cut. Like when a coach is sitting down to make their starting lineup, it's not like everything is incredibly easy the whole way down, right? And there have rarely been times where I'm like, I am like, I just deserve to play so much. I can probably think of like 3 or 4 or 5 times where that's been the case out of like hundreds of games that I've played in, right? So I don't know if that's like a similar experience for you, but like, I don't know. It's I don't feel like coaches get it so wrong, like all the time. Like they get it wrong sometimes, but it's like, just because they're human. It's not because they're like being evil and being like, Christo is a good player, but I'm never going to play him just because I hate him,
Yeah, I think we gravitate to feel that we're more important than we actually are. And so when there's a negative decision made, it's like they made it towards you. as opposed to like it was for the better of the entire team, and it
Yeah.
doesn't actually say anything about you.
Yeah.
And so I think not taking any coaching decision personally really helps you, because I agree. In my opinion, the coach will probably 90% of the time be right because they are able to see from the outside and see all the things that need to happen for the next game or for training or whatever. So 85 to 90% of the time they're right, but they will be wrong,
Yeah.
and that also doesn't define who you are as a player when they are wrong. And if anything, it's a challenge for you to how can I
Step up.
even
Yeah.
even when the coach maybe doesn't feel that I deserve it, the only thing you can do is try again the next session and convince them otherwise. I think it would actually be counterproductive if every single time you knew you were going to start, every single day you knew that you were going to be on the field, regardless of, you wouldn't have any way to evaluate, oh, am I improving or am I just going in because I'm the best one in the team? And if that's the case, then I wonder if you gotta go and find a different environment where you don't know if you're going to start every single weekend. I think you
Yeah.
look at Jack Grealish, right?
Yeah.
Going to Manchester City, like there's no way he wouldn't play a minute at Villa, right?
Yeah.
Or West Ham. What was he?
No, Villa.
Villa. Okay.
I know. I get those two confused too
Yeah, I
because they're
get
the same colors. Yeah.
um and now he has to go and grow as a professional, as a human being, and seeing all these players sometimes play an entire game and him in the bench, knowing that he could probably be starting anywhere else.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a challenge for him. Do I take it personal, or do I persevere and learn different ways to help a team, and learn different roles? So I think every single situation, good or bad, is an opportunity regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And like, maybe 90% of the time the coach is like actually right, but like 99+% of the time the coach thinks they're right, which is just as important, right? Like,
Yeah.
they might be wrong. Maybe you are a better player than that other person, but like based
Yeah.
on what they've seen, they're making the best decision that they can. And, like just like every player will go through periods of not playing if they play at any sort of high level at all, even if that's just like college or, even like playing varsity in high school or something. Like you'll go through times where you're not starting and playing the whole game. And just like you said, you can either treat that as like a horrible thing, or you can treat it as an opportunity, or, and a bit of motivation to work harder, to become better, to earn your playing time. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we'll pivot over into talking a little bit about your thoughts, more specific.
So my phrase, it's more of a question that I like to always have present, to build the right environment. And I think it's more of a question that I contemplate in my brain all the time when I look at the players and how they act. And I'll do it more on a one-on-one base. So my phrase is, how secure are you? Because I think that the way you treat others is an expression of how secure you are or how insecure you are. And so I think anybody that feels the need to prove themselves will automatically act in a certain way. If you come into an environment secure, you don't feel that you need to outplay somebody else, or that you need to everyone. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody like miss an easy shot and then they yell and then they swear and they cuss or all of these things. And it's like, oh, it was just a shot. And I think that's an expression of, there's some sort of insecurity in you that feels that's everybody's watching you, as opposed to, okay, you missed, it doesn't define who you are. Or when you have a negative attitude towards your teammates, I think it speaks more of an insecurity in you than it actually has to do with the entire situation. Or and then there's the opposite side where maybe you're too nice to the best player. And so you're just being very nice to the player because you're insecure and you want to be on the best player's good side, or you want to be the teacher's pet, coach's pet. So all of these things, from the outside, I try my best to, okay, how are these actions of security or insecurity? And when I see him go too far in one way, I come to the player and I ask him like, okay, whatever's going on, if he's talking too much crap to his teammates in a training session, I kind of ask questions that take him along, like, okay, are you securing yourself or are you acting upon your insecurities, and that's why you're treating these players really really wrong. And it was interesting. There was one session where like there was this player who kept, yeah, pass the ball quicker, be play more simple, like, man, why did you do that? And then throughout the session, I'm letting him know, hey, relax, let it go, let it go. And there was one moment when he made a mistake and he just cussed and put his head down. And I was like, wow. I was like, come here, come here. Like the way you're treating them is the same way you treat yourself when you make a mistake. So it makes complete sense. The way you're gonna treat yourself will help you treat others, but that helps me understand why sometimes you treat others in a certain way. So we just got to figure out a way to fix both sides. But I think when I use the word secure, I think it's not confidence in how good you are of a player. I think it's more secure in who you are. That at the end of the day, the game can define you. So have a good session, a bad session. Your value as a human doesn't decrease or increase. And I think being able to walk into any space, knowing that that performance will not define you, automatically makes you lighter, calmer, less resentful. So I guess to close on that phrase is just the idea that always evaluate your actions and think, was this an expression of my security or was this an expression of my insecurities? And at the end of the day, we both have both sides of it. So yeah, I think that plays a big part in how you act in the training session. Like when you're saying, like when you're in the bench and you want your team to do bad because you're not there, is your insecurity that like, okay, maybe I'm not a good enough soccer player to be on the field. And then how to fix that. Okay, if this situation doesn't define who I am as a player or as a human, then I shouldn't be wishing wrong upon the players that are giving their best to play. So yeah, I think that's where my phrase goes. How secure are you?
Yeah, like the difference between like earning your spot and just getting given your spot because someone else, makes a mistake or is playing badly or even, gets injured or something, right? Like you have to have that belief in yourself that, yeah, maybe I'm not starting today, but if I get, 10, 15 minutes, I'll show that I deserve it. And maybe I'll, play 30 minutes next week and then 60 minutes and then, I'll start. Or, whatever it is. I like the, being secure in yourself. Cause I think that is what it comes down to a lot of the time. That like, if you're, if you don't, kind of believe in yourself, then, where are you kind of going?
And it helps the players. So when a teammate treats you in a negative way, it helps them also understand, oh, maybe they're insecure about a certain part of the game. And you have to be cautious because you don't want the player that is being treated wrong to be like, you're just insecure, stop doing that. But you would hope that you create an environment where when these things come out, it's like, oh, like maybe this, he's insecure in this part and I'm not going to take it personal. And it's just part of the emotions of the game because you want to do the best possible. And he's just yelling out of this desire to be a better self because he doesn't feel that he's the best at his role in this moment. So it's not necessarily against me, and you can talk about it after the session. But I think the goal is to not let any emotional comments be taken personal, and also decrease the amount of comments that you let out of you that can be perceived as personal. And when you talk about like having this group of people outside of soccer, it's the same question. Like when you talk about the parents, like how secure are you? Is your kid in the team so that you are the parent with the best player on the team? And the moment that he doesn't play, then I'm going to talk crap about the coach. So again, it goes back. So is your security in this Sunday game, your kid playing, or are you secure in your family and who you are as a parent? And so if you are secure in those things, it won't really affect you how much your kid plays or doesn't. And if it is bothering you, you bring it up to the coach as opposed to start rumors. But again, it goes all the way back. If your girlfriend goes to watch you play, if she's secure in the boyfriend you have, or the other way around, if your boyfriend goes to watch you play and he's secure in the girl that you have, whether they play or not has absolutely nothing to do with when they come out the field and you enjoy time with them. So I think is really powerful understanding where it's coming from, because then your reaction becomes more rational and less toxic.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I say all the time that, like, you're never defined by just like one thing. Like, so many players will like have a bad game, and then like for maybe they never recover, but like hopefully like for a day at least they'll be thinking like, I'm a bad player, and maybe they'll get over it after that. Or, you'll miss a shot, or, you'll miss a penalty or something. And all of a sudden you're like, you didn't just miss a penalty. You are somebody who misses penalties, right? Like, and, like it shouldn't matter how you play one day. You should like, that shouldn't affect how you feel and what you do the next day. And obviously it's going to affect it a little bit, but like in an ideal world, you'd have a bad game next day, wake up, that game's done. You learn your lessons if you want to, and you move right on to the next training session, to the next game. If your kid doesn't play on a Sunday, like, you should be like, your kid is the same exact person and player that they were before. Nothing else has changed. Or if they play badly, like, I've heard like some horror stories. Thankfully, my parents, were very, very supportive when I was a player. But like it's not one game changes absolutely nothing. One play changes absolutely nothing. And I just think realizing that, like, say, like I had a moment where I missed a penalty in a very big game in a shootout. And I was really, really like upset. And I remember, afterwards, a coach telling me, like, the fact that you stepped up to take a penalty in a big moment for us, that says a lot more to me than the fact that you missed. Anyone can miss a penalty. It is what it is. Yeah. But, and that helped me a lot, because I was like, okay, I miss a penalty, so what? We pick up and we move on. And I'm the same person. That one kick of a soccer ball didn't change the person that I am. I'm the same player. I'm the same person. And tomorrow, I mean, I haven't forgotten it to this day, but like, I can move on from it, right? Like, I can, and I learned a valuable lesson from it, like, which is, helpful in its own way. So,
yeah, no, it's a fine line, because you also don't want to like take it to the other extreme where like, I miss the penalty, I don't miss it. I don't care if I miss 10.
Yeah.
And as an athlete, like you already know that, like you're already training every day. Like, that, you don't intend to miss the PK. You don't intend to make the bad play. But I do think that it has a lot to do with the conversations outside of that training session that maybe your coach has with you, or your significant people have with you. Because I remember actually there was one game in college where it was an out of conference game, and the starters weren't gonna play the first half. We might come into the second half, but it was a game that was near where I'm from, and so I had my high school coach, my aunt, my dad, my sister, my mom, my girlfriend's parents, and so all of these people showed up, and they didn't know the situation. All they knew was like, oh, this is a really good player. He's going to be on the field. And then the first half ends, and then like, well, the first half we knew, but then when the second half started, some of the players started going in, and then I still hadn't come in, and then in my head, like I knew that there was already a game plan, but in my head, I'm also thinking for them. I'm like, they came to
Yeah.
watch me, and what are they gonna think? Like maybe I'm not as good, and all these things. And then now imagine if you're thinking of like if they're scouts, and like you don't know if the scout knows, or not that that was that situation for me, but I'm saying if you go to another, if it would have been a more important game where maybe I wasn't playing, now I'm thinking, oh, as the scout, this is my chance. I'm coming in and at a moment where the game is already lost or whatever the reason may be. I think being able to hear from the people in the stands and from your coach the thought process of why, one from your fans, why it's okay that they didn't see you on the field, that they still were there to watch Andres as opposed to the player, and spend a time of family and whatever it may be, and then the coach explaining to you why you're not in the game or why you were in the game. Because if the coach didn't tell us, we're not using certain players for this game because this and this reason, you're sitting in the bench having 20 different voices inside of you, saying all types of different things, and you always gravitate to the negative ones. So I think it's so important to help the people around you be secure, is to communicate your decisions. If I'm dribbling and I don't pass you the ball, maybe I communicate to you why I didn't pass you the ball, as opposed to the players that are going to be like, he doesn't trust me, he doesn't want me to get the ball, I'm going to miss the shot. And even if I thought I was in a better situation, communicate it and know that I saw you there, and then I made this decision. Because I really think it's really helpful for any environment on and off the field that you attempt to communicate why certain decisions were made, just to give everybody a sense of perspective, and not let people just stay there with the million voices that are in your head, because we all have so many voices and we want to shut them all up and kind of just go. But it's hard, as players with ambition, with desire to be seen. So yeah, I think communication within the group and with the people that are coming to watch you is very important.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think I had this coach, like, and every time at the locker room at halftime, the first thing he would say is he would let every single person who wanted to speak. So every single one of us, whether we had played or not played, and obviously there are some players who will talk a lot more, and there are some players who will never talk. But he gave us all the opportunity to say our piece if we wanted to. And I think that like communication is something that like a lot of players get wrong. And something that's like not really like taught, like obviously, and that's communication on and off the field. But yeah, like I see a lot of players, just talking to talk or yelling just to yell kind of, and not really saying anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, whenever you speak, I think there should be a reason for what you're saying, right? You should have, you don't need to have thought it all the way through, but whenever I'm on the field, if I'm going to say something, there's going to be a reason for that. Unless I'm just, I am frustrated because I missed 10 shots and I miss another, and then I am just screaming at myself or something. But like, there needs to be a reason behind that. And same thing in the locker room. If you're talking to your teammates or your coach, or the coach is talking, I try always as a coach to have a reason for why I'm speaking and not just speak to speak. I I do enough of that on social media and stuff. But I love that you bring in like stuff that goes on off the field and relationships that are off the field, because I remember this very clearly, because it's kind of funny. I played for two coaches in pretty quick succession, because I left a team and I joined another team. And the first coach, I remember him talking to us and saying it was in Greek. And it was something along the lines of like, you don't need to be a manga, which is like a tough guy to play soccer. And I remember the next coach that I played for, because I was going through a tough like time at that time with like confidence issues and stuff. He spent a lot of his time just talking to me. And on the field, obviously, I learned a lot from him. But it was also like the off the field stuff that he kind of like, made me feel like a tough guy, kind of like, not like, I was like
Yeah.
super cocky or arrogant or anything, but just like made me feel like a little bit of self-belief.
Yeah.
And that was not self-belief that I only had on the field, but it definitely affected my life off the field as well. And I think it's impossible to separate those two things. So maybe you don't need to be a tough guy, but like you need to, if you want to find your confidence on the field, then a lot of the time, finding your confidence off the field can just help that so much. And that comes from the relationships you have, the people that you talk to, the people that you interact with, and also, obviously, as you mentioned before, like how you interact with yourself is just as important. To finding
that's
that.
a big one. That's a big one. I think like when you talk about like the manga and like being this tough person, I think you can only the toughest version of yourself will come when in soccer will come when soccer doesn't define you. Because if soccer defines you, then you're going to walk in into this space where am I good enough based on this specific craft? And so it's so powerful that your coach takes you out of that arena and he builds you outside of it, because it's actually Christo who's going to come and be the tough guy. It's not a soccer player. It starts from Christo that can turn into a soccer player, not a soccer player that can turn into Christo. And many times we get that confused. It's the soccer player that goes to school and is a student. It's the soccer player that is a son. It's the soccer player that is a boyfriend. It's the soccer player that is a friend. And so you start to become defined by perhaps one of your better crafts, and you start walking into all these. But what happens when you are no longer the best soccer player, or you no longer are a soccer player? Do you remember what it's like to be a son? Because you were just a player that happened to be a son. So it's so important that you're building this manga from outside of soccer, and then that will bring you into any space, not just soccer, with a different type of security. Because then the soccer can't touch you, and you'll be this person, guy, female, in that space. But yeah, it does come from inside of you too, because I think you have to be patient with yourself. You have to really love yourself. You have to see the potential inside of you, because if you don't see it, some people around you may miss it, and if you're expecting them to see it first, you're gonna struggle.
And then you walk in, rather than asking, "Am I good enough?" You walk in saying, "I am good enough." And that's not going to change whatever happens today or tomorrow, and I believe in myself. I think let's transition a little bit into this. This is a little bit of a tougher one, but what do you do at, like, in your actual coaching to kind of like foster the team environment that you want? Like, how do you either talk to players, or just like, how do you run your sessions to kind of foster what you want, an environment where players are maybe secure, but also
that's a good question. So I think you have to be honest and to yourself, and know that there's levels within your team, and that who's the most talented players, who may be the average, who has the least amount of talent. You need to know who are the most dedicated, because sometimes the most dedicated is not the most talented, but maybe the most dedicated is helping you more in the long run. So I think you have to evaluate the high attributes, the high talents in your team, and then use those. At least when I go back to security being that groundbreaker, I use those to help build security. Or if you're confusing arrogance or confidence with security, then I try to fracture that. And so one example would be, I have this player that always, when I say I need help grabbing the lacrosse nets and this. He's the first one sprinting. And then once he goes, a couple other guys go and help him. But there's this other player that he's one of the most talented players, and he never goes, and he's just waiting. And then so I call him out and I say, yeah, no, don't worry. Like you obviously don't help, so just make sure you're juggling while everybody else is doing. And then one day, the player that is really always helps me with all this stuff and creates the momentum to help wasn't there. And obviously that the talented player had already built the habits that I'm not going to go, it's okay. And I turned it into a joke too. So now he just wouldn't help regardless. And so I called him over and I said, yo, you remember the player, the one that's not here that he always helps? Yeah, I honestly wonder if he actually likes soccer more than you. I wonder if you just like soccer because you happen to be good at it. You could have been good at basketball, but you come with this idea that you're passionate for the game, but you're not willing to move one goal or two cones. And obviously I already have a really close relationship with him, so he'll take it. And then from there on, he's been, as soon as I say, can you guys help me with the cones? Boom, he sprints, he gets it. And he gets it that like, okay, there's other ways to express what it is like to be a good teammate or a good person for this environment. And I think the other piece would be I create a healthy relationship with on a one-on-one basis, so that when I identify my top talent, those are probably the ones that I'll call out the most when we bring it in. Because if the worst player or the less talented player sees that I'm coming at one of the top players, he's not going to feel that there's any favoritism. And so he doesn't feel that player, because of his talent, he's untouchable. And so it builds some confidence in the less talented player, so that when I say something that they did wrong, as a less talented player, they don't take it personal and they don't say like, man, I'm not that good. And on top of that, coach is coming for me. They'll be like, oh, he actually is giving me instructive criticism because he also does it to this really talented player. And so I think just being able to manipulate the air and the personalities. And when I'm talking to you, I'm actually showing this to somebody else, so that when I talk to you, you know that I said it to the best player, but I can also say it to you. It helps them take in the information more sincerely. But yeah, so I guess there's many different ways that I play around with it. And some may work, some may not. Like the one tactic with that player was saying like, oh no, you're good. You just keep juggling. But that started to turn into a negative habit to the moment that I had to go and break that. So I think those are a few examples that I guess I use for that.
Yeah, I think like it's important to, like, one of the most important things as a coach is knowing your players, because we're all like, even within a team environment, we are all so different. And it's, what works for one player might be the worst possible thing you could say to another player, right? Like, I needed a coach to talk to me in a certain way. But for, like, even if I think about the coach that I played for that I hated more than any other coach I've ever played for, he was the perfect coach for someone else, and he was, and obviously I'm talking about like a coach that was coaching at a high level. So he was, had a lot of experience, was qualified. There are obviously some coaches who have no clue what they're doing. But a lot of them are like helping the sport because they're, doing it as a volunteer thing, and they're doing the best, which is great. But like, this coach, he was a good coach. He was a horrible coach for me, but he was a good coach. And that's how it goes sometimes. Like I do my best to like be a good coach for every player that I have, but sometimes things don't work out. And sometimes I get it wrong as well. But I think it's very important, if I'm working with a new team, I'll be pretty, conservative in the beginning. When I say conservative, like, I'll be very careful with the things that I say, just because I want to get to know the players first. So I'll do a lot more watching and a lot more like stuff that just like get them into games, let them play, let me see what works, what this player's like, how they interact with each other. So I'll take more of like a backseat approach and just try to get to know the players a little bit, because, like I said, like every player is a little bit different. I can, I can praise one player all day long. It might
Yeah.
have, it might do nothing, but praise might be the most important thing for another player. So,
Yeah.
a really, really talented player, maybe I do need to call them out all the time. But at the
Yeah.
same time, maybe a very, good player, if I call them out all the time, maybe that does affect them, because
Yeah.
maybe even though they're very good, they're also insecure.
Yeah.
And they don't really believe in themselves, right? So it's all about, figuring out what works for a specific player. And then another thing that I think is really helpful is, if you are on a team and there aren't, there are players who start and play, and there are players who play very little. It's important for the team training to become some sort of place where players can, like if you're not playing at the weekend, it's important that that team training gives them some sort of opportunity, and also some sort of, competition, so that they can feel like, one, it is possible for them to earn their spot, and then two, that there's like some way to compete against the starters,
Yeah.
and and make that feel real. So if like something I've done is, just like do, even if I don't have 22 players to play 11v11, but we'll do like, an official seeming game in the
Yeah.
training sessions, just to give those players that aren't playing that much a chance to, be like, this is my game.
Yeah.
And they should be doing that anyway, but they're little,
Yeah.
like, tricks that you can use to make things seem a little bit more real for them, because, it is tough. Obviously, I love, training, and players should love training, but,
Yeah.
you train to play at the end of the
Yeah. Yeah.
day. And feeling like, if you're not playing, it can be a tough situation. So how can we make training a little bit of an environment where you feel like, even if I don't play at the weekend, okay, I know that I've worked hard at training, I've been given the opportunity to earn my spot in games, and I have a little bit of healthy competition in the training sessions as well, because that can be really, really important for those players who aren't playing that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go
They, I
ahead.
think they want to, obviously, we've talked about in every episode that it's fundamental that everybody's having fun, and enjoying themselves, but it's also fundamental that you feel you're being given the opportunity, to obtain what you're there for, which at the end of the day is play in the game. In when the referee's there, they blow the whistle, I'm inside the field. You can't be naive and neglect that. So I think that's a really good approach, because always finding whichever, whether it's that scrimmage or whatever it may be, your technique as a coach, giving them the opportunity, and the player, I think, should be also honest. I think there should be better relationship with the coaches, where like the player can come and say, hey coach, I feel like, I mean, obviously I could just be in my own head, but I feel like these players might have more opportunity than I have given. And the coach being okay with taking that conversation and explaining, well, here are the moments where I've given everybody an opportunity. And so I think it just creates a conversation, to understand both sides, as opposed to then you want to injure in that game. You want to injure the starters, so that now
Yeah.
you get a chance, or you want to make a fool out of them, or you want to like go on a one-on-one, and now you start to also not play the game as a collective. So I think there definitely should be more room for players and coaches to, as opposed to even just the parent coming. Like I wish parents, I'm grateful, because the parents I work with, they're so good at letting their kids ask me the questions, or make comments, and just creating an environment where, like, okay, if you're not feeling a certain type of way, like, let me know, and we'll try our best to work around it. And if you're not playing and you're not enjoying it, and I'm not feeling that, you're like, maybe we reevaluate, should you be on this team, and can I help you go to another team? And so that's also fine. Like, You don't have to stick to the same coach, the same players, the same teammates. And again, it doesn't say that I'm a bad coach for not being able to get your best potential, and doesn't mean you're a bad player for not being able to adjust to my coaching. Don't take it personal. You
Yeah.
know? And I
Yeah.
think it creates a better environment.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say, I much prefer talking to players than to parents. And I think like honesty is so important, because like you can be honest like every time you talk to a player. If you tell them something that's not true, and I've had coaches like tell me, if I went to talk to them, like why am I not playing, or what can I do to earn playing time or something, and they give me some answer and I'm like, yeah, that's not true though, is it? And it's like, like then that trust is gone, and it's really tough to get back. So, you just need to, the player needs to be honest, but the coach also needs to, tell the truth. And if it's a harsh truth, then it's a harsh truth, but I'd rather have that than some, nice lie. So yeah, let's wrap this up by giving our three kind of like key takeaways for players. So I'll give the first one, and very, very simple. The team is greater than you, and that's true, of any team sport. The team is greater than any individual on that team. Doesn't matter if they're Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi or Michael Jordan or LeBron James or whoever it is. The team is always more important than just an individual.
Yeah, I would say you have to build your security outside of soccer to have more security within soccer. Yeah, that would be the second one.
All right.
You got a third one, or are we bringing this one together?
I think we should bring it together. I think actually, how about like, I think that within all of that, it's important to not kind of lose sight of yourself within a team, and like why you're doing this. Like my little quote was, for you, through the team, for the team. And I think it's important to realize that you're in a team sport, but you're still an individual, and you're doing this for the team, but by doing it for the team, you're also doing it, for yourself. Like I don't think I could ever play an individual sport personally, just because like I love the, the feeling of playing on a great team or coaching a great team. There's like no other feeling like it when everything's coming together. It's just so, it really is like magical, like all these individuals coming together, fitting together, and working for each other. So like, even though you're doing it for the team, you're still an individual within that.
Mm-hmm. So how do we put that in so team first before you, security beyond the game, and then for yourself, you're in it for yourself. It's like a paradox, because like you have to balance well. I think it's important to remember that, and it's kind of along your lines, that like you have choice all the time. Like you have the choice that if things aren't going well, when you put in the team first, when you have security, it's okay to leave the team too. You're the one that have put yourself in this environment, and you're the one that can take yourself out of this environment, because it's for you. It's like, if the team is doing really well and you're struggling, then maybe you should move away. But what were you gonna say?
I had a coach who said, in order to help yourself, you need to help the team. And just like, within a team environment, the way to individual success is by helping the team as much as you can, however that is. And yeah.
Okay. So maybe we flip them. The first one is your, I don't know. I guess start because I guess we can like say your phrase again.
For you, through the team, for the team.
Through the team,
Yeah.
for the team. Okay, for you. Yeah, I think we start with the first takeaway is you have to be doing something that's for you.
Mhm.
Because that's where it starts. I don't think you can adjust to doing it for the team or through the team if it's not something that you enjoy yourself, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Because maybe you should look for an individual sport,
Yeah.
but it starts for you and understanding what you want. And then the second one would be through the
The team
team
is greater. Yeah. Yeah.
later, and then I think we can end with um, your security shouldn't be defined through the game
Yeah.
or through this environment. I think those are good.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll put links to social media in the description. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Infinite Improvement Podcast. We'll also, this will be on YouTube. It'll be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Yeah, we'll be back next week with another new topic.
Sounds good. Thank you,
All right.
Christo.
Awesome. Peace.
See you guys.